Okay, so what I'm doing is I've got my Sorel transfer paper here, wax-free transfer paper. It's white in this case, and I tack it down with the gray paper underneath, and then the transfer paper, and then you can see the image coming through as I draw over it. Don't push too hard so that you don't actually dent the paper. You just want to transfer a nice clean drawing to your surface so that when you go in to do your final drawing, you're not having to deal with all the rough bits that you've already spent a lot of time working out. So it's challenging to keep track of where you've already drawn, so you can do it in a different color pencil or in a ballpoint pen. It's good to tape it down. Like I said, be really careful you don't push too hard, because once you dent the paper, there's really nothing you can do about it. And I can explain why that happens after I finish this part of it. So break it down into a clean line drawing. And sometimes you can just take your tracing paper and keep working over your drawing until you've got a clean line drawing that you really love, so that you don't have to spend any time doing, refiguring any part of it or have extra lines on the paper that you really don't need. Like I said, the most challenging part is knowing where you already drawn. So before you take it off, you want to check it. Let's see where. Okay, so the left hand I need to do a bit more on, a little more detail on the mouth. I'm kind of doing the hands blind because I didn't look at the reference for the hands. So that looks pretty good. I'll do one more check before I completely remove it. Okay. So now I've got my drawing transferred, and you can use this transfer paper over and over again until there's no dust left on it at all. There's basically my clean line drawing that I can use now to really go to town with having fun, basically. So here we go. I know the proportions are good, as I've already decided I was happy with the proportions. Haven't really sorted out the hands yet, so I won't do too much with them. I'm going to start with working with and I'm working with white because that's what I prefer to do. You can always draw over the white. You can't draw over the black. So I'm going to start with developing out the figure here. And I'll make some changes as I go. Little corrections here and there. Oh, so the reason that you don't want to push too hard is basically, if you look at the texture of your paper close up, you'll see that it goes like this. It has like nibs, bumps in it. And the pencil tip, as you drag it across those bumps, will leave little bits of material, graphite or charcoal or whatever, in the crevices. And if you want to pull them out with the eraser, then you can just, it's easy to do, just pull it out. But if you push it so hard that you flatten out those valleys and peaks and lay it, it becomes smooth. With graphite in particular, the graphite is flakes of a substance of a mineral that they flake together and become very glossy. And if you try to pull or erase out those lines, you still have this flattened area where you can't get all the graphite off. Plus, you have a dent in the textured surface of the paper. So you can do that on purpose for certain reasons, but make sure that you are doing it on purpose and not by accident, because once you get those lines pushed in there, you can't get them out. And there's certain techniques that you can use when you're trying to create specific textures, where you will have you will want to have a super shiny surface. And you can actually use graphite and charcoal both on the same drawing for certain effects. I was trying this technique that I read about that used, I believe it was charcoal first and then pencil, and burnished it to a super shine. It was really interesting. Not something that, I mean, it was tedious. It's kind of like colored pencils. Colored pencils are kind of tedious. They take a really long time. And I'm not a super big fan. So, need eraser. Oops. So I want to pull, this is a sad little piece of eraser. I need to get some new ones here. I'll pull this out a little bit. So two things with using the charcoal, the gray paper, is that it gives you the opportunity to let the paper do some of the mid-tone work. So you can focus on just developing the values and the edges. So drawing is all about, realistic drawing is all about finding edges, shapes, relationships, lights and darks, and the overall gestalt. Cartooning or animation, you're going to be dealing a lot more with line and using the turn of the line to create. Oh, my camera froze. That hasn't happened in a really long time. Let's fix that. Huh. That's really strange. All right, let's relaunch the camera then. Sorry about that. I kind of like the way that our reference here has this snow on his eyebrows that kind of overlaps his eyes. So a little bit of pre-planning, which makes it nice to be able to work out your idea out on the charcoal paper first, or on the newsprint first, and then transfer it to a clean surface. I've changed a little bit of the proportions of his face in order to compromise between the human and the wolf. If you guys have any questions, don't be shy. love how wolves have eyeliner. And I might take a little paint to paint the eyeballs. Oh yeah, it's so much fun drawing on the gray paper. I totally recommend it. It's one of the assignments to draw with the gray paper, because it gives you a chance to really explore developing light as well as dark. We're so used to just drawing on white paper and only developing the going towards the dark, from light to dark. But with the charcoal paper, you can go both ways. So that's pretty cool. It gives you a different perspective. So when you do your chiaroscuro drawings, you can pay more attention to developing lights and darks and less attention to developing just the line work. So I might be a little less rigid about developing over the entire drawing. Once I've finished my composition, I've got everything set up. I can go a little bit like from point to point, or drawing from one place to another. It's not as intimidating as you think. If you get a big sheet of paper that you can tear into 4 sheets, and then you'll have a couple of sheets you can practice with. And then try also varying which side you draw on, because one side is smooth and one side is rougher. So you might find I prefer to draw on the smooth side, because I like the lack of, I like to be able to get it polished down to a point where there's no real pencil mark, or the pencil marks are very controlled, whereas when it's really rough, you'll get a lot more texture going. So that's something to keep in mind here. I wish I'd put his arms out a little bit further. I pulled them forward on purpose based on what the model has their arms to the side, but I wanted his arms coming forward. So in order to accentuate that, I'm going to need to exaggerate a little bit and try to develop out his anatomy a bit more. But like I said, you see how easy that comes off because I didn't push too hard? So it just comes right up. And then I'm also going to have to make up, here we're dealing with fantasy, right? It's something between the werewolf, the human, and the wolf. He's in transition, because he could become more wolf-like, or he could be more humanish. But there's still some basic human anatomy that we can hang on to, mainly because human anatomy is so cool. But we also want to make him furry, because he is furry. And I really wanted to work up the curls down fur down his chest. See how the wolf has like bands of color around its neck? I really like that look. But one of the fun things, the really super fun things about working with the charcoal paper is that you get results really quickly. It really starts to pop out into 3D when you have you're able to go with light and dark. Sometimes I'll even go in there with some acrylic paint and do the do the touch-ups in color, acrylic, or pastel. See, he's got a little brown on his face. I might put some of that in there. So I don't know if you remember what I said about texture. The texture is most obvious in transitional areas, like where one color texture changes to another, or where a highlight goes into a shadow. Ooh, I made his mouth much bigger on my werewolf than I did on the wolfie himself. That's okay. I like it. I don't mind it. So the reference is only that. It's just reference. It's not intended to be gospel, you know? I might go in and paint his tongue. I haven't decided yet. For now, so I suppose I should put music to the background of this when I post a video. It's going to be boring. Why anyone would just want to watch me draw, I've never quite figured out, but okay, so bring up the highlights where I want the muzzle to come forward. Got a nice little highlight on the end of his nose. The front part of the muzzle is going to be closer to us and higher up, so we'll give that a little bit more weight. So I don't know if I told you guys I worked on this game called Werewolf the Apocalypse. I don't know if it ever actually made it out into the real world. Oh, see, this is something you got to be careful of. See, I'm rubbing my hand on my drawing. You can actually, there's two ways to deal with that. One is put a sheet of paper on your drawing so you don't rub your hand on it. You can also buy an acrylic bridge that will allow you to rest your hand on it. I brought it downstairs, but it's on the other side of the room. So, but it's a transparent plastic thing that you can put on top of your drawing so you don't rub your hand on it. The other option is just to put something down like this so that you don't smear it. So I still could use the smudging tool to really polish it out, which I might do, or I might just leave it sketchy. And with all this furry stuff, since he's more shaggy, unlike the horse drawing, if any of you saw the horse drawing, it's much more like a satiny look. And the burnishing with the paper stump seemed to be really appropriate. Okay, Michaela, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I still have to do grades tonight too, so I have to work tonight too, but I can at least work on this for a little while, a little longer. I kind of like the salt and pepper look of this wolf. And I might even go in with ink and really punch the blacks up towards the end.
That's okay. When you were messaging me earlier today, I was in the middle of a stream.
Oh, were you? Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't care. It's like, they're like, who's that? That's my professor. She gets to do this anytime she wants. Like, wow.
No, this is something that could have been put on Twitch, right? I'm recording it for YouTube, but for my students, but we could this is something that we could do for Twitch. And I was thinking about doing the dragon project again. I thought that would be really fun to come up with dragons.
Yeah, you can pretty
And
much do anything you want. I mean, like I said, I got a Oh, did I even tell you about that? That I got a warning?
no, for
Well,
naked people.
yeah, but it wasn't a warning. It was a heads up. I had been drawing one of the people from um, that website, Croquet Cafe,
Mm-hmm.
and she had on a bodysuit,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't do too badly. I actually gave it to somebody because they liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't keep it. I just mailed it off to them and gave them the PS file and everything. I said, "There's everything I have with it. It's all yours." But she had a little bit of nipple through the shirt, and
Oh,
hello,
oh
detail.
goodness.
Yeah, detail. I
And
I can't help it that
so,
it was chilly, and that's what showed through. I'm getting the texture of the fabric. The person is fully clothed.
so it was
She
Twitch
has a
that
body.
gave you a warning?
No, no. Someone complained to Twitch that I was showing nudity. They viewed
Um,
the history that
mm-hmm.
usually keeps after. They viewed it because I kept it.
Mm-hmm.
I keep all mine for that reason. And they gave me a heads up, said someone that was in my stream, they're not going to tell me who, had complained that I was doing a nude drawing. And they said it's not nude. So if they come back in, make sure to let us know. And
Hmm.
we're just giving you a heads up that someone did, in fact, do that. And I was like, wow, from a
But
minute
they
there, I
didn't
just
tell you
swallowed my
who it
heart.
was? They didn't tell
No,
you
they
who it
didn't want
was,
to tell
so
me who it was.
how could you
Right.
keep an eye out for that person then?
Well, if someone complained inside when I was still doing that type of drawing,
Oh, okay.
if someone started any kind of trolling or whatever, to definitely report them. If it's the same person, they would ban them forever from
Oh
using
my
Twitch
goodness.
ever again.
Hmm.
But yeah,
How harsh.
they gave me a heads up, and they weren't harsh. They said, "Don't worry, this is only a heads up that someone complained. We viewed the entire um, you know session." And he said, and he puts in parentheses, which we really enjoyed.
Oh, well, that's cool.
He said it was very tasteful. You did nothing wrong. Do not worry. If a person, he goes, we can't legally tell you who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he said, but if a person is in there and they start, trolling you with saying stuff and lots of spam, to let us know, and they will. And they said capital letters will take
Oh,
care of that. I was like,
that's
wow.
interesting.
But I ever since then I have not drawn any persons inside unless they're in heavy armor.
Yeah. It's a shame
It's
that
just
it's
very
like that.
discouraging.
It is discouraging.
It's some people though. It's not them. It's just some people. I don't understand. I mean, how I am. I don't like it when models have a certain pose. I won't draw them.
Yeah.
So I'm not in it for that. I want the person's. They're an object.
Well, no, they're human.
They're human, but still, they're my subject. I'm drawing. I don't want to. I want to objectify them, but I don't want to make them a sex symbol. And it's not porn. It's
Right.
tasteful. It's
Right.
them. I want the pose. I don't want them doing anything provocative. Just be. I find that
I've been
really
surprised
fascinating.
at there's some sites online that are really provocative and they call themselves figure drawing sites, and I won't use them. I find them distasteful.
Yeah,
There's a
there's a
couple of
fine
them
line
like
between
that.
art and pornography. I know, but
Always has been. I mean, back to the dawn of time. Yeah, a lot of Renaissance artists were doing it. They were commissioned to do nudity for titillation. And it really was for titillation, but hey, I guess
yeah, but there's a difference, and you can
different
tell. I mean,
strokes for different folks.
if I'm drawing something that you would look at it and go, oh, I like those lines. And you don't care about the breasts or anything else showing. You're like, oh wow, those are nice lines. I love the shadow.
Hmm.
And some people look at it and go, she's not wearing a bra. Well, okay, I'm that
Hmm.
person, but I'm the
Now
person that will say that. But still,
I am recording this. I'm going to post it on YouTube, so
oh jeez,
I'm just
I
telling
forget
you.
about.
Just telling you.
No, but I am one of those person that will do something silly like that just for a laugh. But I'm not the kind of person that wants to sit there and draw it like that. So it kind of like maybe a little bit upset, but at the same time, it's like at least they stuck up for me.
Yeah.
It was I'm
Yeah.
a switch.
Well,
They
that's
stuck up for
good.
me. So.
That was a good thing. I remember when I was doing my figure drawing class at EA, because I start a figure drawing class at every game company I ever worked at, and it's something, Lucas does it and Disney does it
Hmm.
and they all do it. And there was one we started out just to kind of test the waters with just clothed with models in swimsuits. And this one
Mm.
guy came down to draw and he was like, ah, and he left. And then we started, we said, okay, this is going to be all right. So we're going to go ahead and do nudes. And as soon as he found out there were nudes, he was there. And I'm just like, oh, you got to be kidding.
Yeah,
It
that's
was,
the kind of person I look out for.
yeah, it was really sad. But what can you do? It takes all kinds to make the world go around.
Well, I know there's one there's a girl that borderlines. Well, she doesn't really borderline. I think she knows the rules quite well, but she likes drawing women and provocative poses, and I'm like, yeah, okay,
It
you
certainly
probably won't be here long,
It
but
certainly happens, but yeah, I mean, it happens out in the real world. I mean, people are allowed. Oh, have you ever heard of boiled angel? Now, here's an interesting, just as an aside, an interesting idea about art and expressing yourself and the line between acceptable and unacceptable and censorship and expression, self-expression, right? There was a guy who did this comic, and this was a while ago, but I went to a Comic Con. It must have been in the 90s that I went to the Comic Con and I bought a poster. I don't know where the poster is now, but at any rate, he was in Florida, so the Deep South. For those of you that are Southern, you know that they are a little bit more uptight than in some other parts of the country. So, um, anyway, he was arrested, charged with pornography, and tried and convicted. He spent some time in jail because of this comic book he wrote called Boiled Angel. You can look it up. I don't really remember what the comic book itself was like. But the whole idea was that when he got out of jail, he was forbidden to have any drawing materials in his possession. While he was on parole. And so someone would come and check his house and make sure that he wasn't drawing anything. He wasn't allowed to draw anything because he was drawing what they considered to be pornography, even though what he was considering it to
okay.
be artistic expression and a story, even though it was dark. You think about all the dark comic books you've ever read, and some of them are pretty brutal nowadays. But this was a while ago, and also in a more repressed part of the country. Um, it was kind of scary, and so they had the comic book legal defense fund was trying to, get him some legal help to. You can't tell a person they can't draw. I mean, it's like telling a person they're not allowed to talk or write a book or I don't know. You know that movie that came out called about the Marquis de Sade? Had a pretty famous actor in it actually, and but it was from the 15 or 1600s, and he was imprisoned and forbidden to write, and he ended up writing on the walls with body fluids. So it
Ew.
was pretty intense, yeah. But that's censorship. Think about it. There's decency, there's common decency, and there's also what's art and what's not art. I mean, on the one hand, you could say, well, art is whatever you say it is. On the other hand, there could be considered standards. High art, there's high art, and there's low art, and there's pornography. And who's to say? I mean, it's hard to be the judge and jury on that kind of stuff. And one man's pornography is another man's entertainment, I guess. It's just a really hard thing to try to think about all the banned books that we've experienced in our lifetime. Some, like I think Tom Sawyer, some of his books were, yeah. Todd McFarlane was pretty intense, and some of the newer graphic novels. And I think I love Neil Gaiman, but I think he's gets pretty over the line sometimes on his things, you know. But it seems to have, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just hard to say. I just can't imagine actually imprisoning someone for drawing, no matter how awful the drawings were. And I mean, I would imprison someone for drawing poorly rather than what they were drawing.
Well, yes, that is a lousy rendition of Mickey Mouse. Off with
Yeah,
your head.
off with your head. Yeah, it's like I could see that, but it's really something to make you just kind of pause and think about it. So,
But there are
oh,
people that are really repressed on this planet. I mean, really, to the point of, they want to run what you're doing, and it's like, um,
yeah.
I don't understand that.
But
I
drawing
really
doesn't
never.
hurt anybody. Drawing is, it's not like child porn where you're taking photographs of children doing things that you shouldn't be doing, but it's just drawing things.
Yeah,
It's your
that's wrong.
imagination, and that is, yeah, of course that's wrong because you're involving other people in your particular whatever. But if you're just drawing out of your head, like writing books, some people might not like it, but don't you have a right to say things as long as you're not like hurting anybody with it? Like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but you
But
can
just
certainly.
remember, in Scotland, they used to ban. They used to ban people from playing certain songs because they were
Yeah,
inspired.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. And we have
And,
explicit labels on albums, and that makes sense because
yeah,
we have to, protect
I
the
think that's a
innocent
little over.
people
I
that
think that's a little
really. Yeah, and I think a lot of foul language in music has its
the
place
foul language,
certain
sure, but
in certain
don't
places,
censor.
but is not appropriate for all listeners. But when I was 12, I got the soundtrack for Hair. And I don't know if you've ever seen or heard Hair, but I
Yes, I
was
have.
singing it at the top of my lungs. I had no idea what the words meant, and I later on when I found out, I was just like, "Oh my God." My mother never said
Oh, what?
anything, but of course, that was the best thing to do was not really say anything because if she had, I would have been more aware and possibly used it wrong. You know what I mean? It's like uh,
You know, I don't know.
sometimes it doesn't really. It gets very political. It can be very political.
I don't. I just can't picture you using it wrong.
It
You
was just.
seem.
It was funny when you think about me, a 12-year-old singing that one song about. I'm not even going to go there, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, but that's on the same level of, I don't know, Alice in Wonderland, or
Oh,
even some of the nursery rhymes we have
oh
now.
yeah.
I mean, that they came out with.
Well,
I
innuendo.
mean, well,
Innuendo,
yeah. I
not
mean,
the other.
Mary Quite Contrary was about a woman that was promiscuous, but turned
And
it
the,
into a nursery rhyme.
you see now, rap and stuff like Eminem, they seem to glorify violence, and I don't think that I have a problem with. But if it's just part of I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to
Sometimes I think
say.
it's part of their persona. They have to look like they're tough or what have you.
Yeah,
And then they say, "Oh, well, I was from this part of the neighborhood." Well, yeah, and about a block down, it wasn't. Maybe you should have moved. No,
maybe. I don't know.
I'm awful.
So I'm kind of playing around right now with this. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to take it yet, so I'm probably going to let get to a certain point and then let it sit. I love the little curlicues on his chest. I think it looks really fun, and I'd like to paint his eyes with gold paint and probably paint his mouth with red because I like having that little touch of color. Or maybe I'll scan it and put that in digitally because I've done, I can do that too.
Ooh, did
Although
you say?
I could, I could, I could. But
No,
then
you can't.
again,
You're not
I
allowed.
don't know. I'm not allowed to.
You're not allowed to. I have to do it for you.
Oh, I see. Is that how it works? Okay.
That's how it works because you're not allowed. I will not have you messing up your wrist doing digital.
Well, I can
It's
do
not.
it with a
You
mouse. I
are
don't have to
grounded
do
now,
it with
lady.
a tab, with a pad. But anyway,
Fine. Your stylus is held captive. You are grounded.
I rather like the, and I'll probably put more, like to get more shadows under his chin.
Wow, that didn't come out bad. Holy crap. I'm impressed.
It's kind of fun. I mean, I'm happy
No,
to.
not yours. I'm talking about mine.
Oh, really?
I've never attempted to draw something like that before,
Oh, no.
especially not looking at a model. I just looked at yours once and said, okay, I'm going to memorize this and do what I'm.
First time for everything.
Well,
Well, actually,
send it in. I just
Yeah,
sent
send it
mine.
over. Send
sure,
it
I can.
over.
I can.
When I stop the recording, we'll take a look
Well,
at everybody's work.
I didn't actually do the whole thing, but I have the outline. I'm ready to do the rest of it. But yeah.
Send it over. We'll take a look at
I
it.
sent you mine too.
Okay. As soon as I'll get to a stopping point, stop the recording, and then we'll take a look at everybody's work. Anybody wants to send it in. You have to decide how much human. And see, here's the thing: you got to make a decision as an artist or as a concept designer, character designer. How much human and how much animal are you going to have in your mythical creature? So you have to think about the structure underneath. He's going to have shoulders, but he's stuck on two legs. So does he have clavicles? He might have clavicles. He might not. I'm not sure yet.
I'm just stuck on the lower jaw. I don't know. Whoops. I don't exactly know how to fix that.
I shortened up the muzzle on mine a bit from the reference. And that made it just a little more closer to
I'll
the
just send you my
human.
rough sketch.
Okay. But I think you guys might get the idea. Play with it. Have some fun with it.
Mine's just a rough sketch. I think I'm going to actually do this a lot bigger at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the face. I just wanted the face. I thought it was
Did you
kind of
do
cool.
it digitally or
Yep.
traditionally?
It's digital with the traditional look to it.
Okay.
That's how I do it.
I want to look at some reference of wolves to get the patterning of the coat on the bottom part of the body, because all I have is the upper part, and then the shepherd, which I really was using for more of a musculature approach. But yeah, I want to look at some more coats, pelts, and see what I might want to do with the lower legs. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and we'll take a look at what you guys have sent.